Only after attorney Joe Bondi pointed out a possible misreading of the case law at Jean's trial concerning the medical necessity defense did the court pause to reconsider its position on departing downward from the federal sentencing guidelines. Asked for his recommendation, Federal District Attorney Jerry Miller said that his office was in favor of compassion, a word he'd undoubtedly heard many times in the previous days. Judge Thornburg did depart downward, sentencing Jean Marlowe to 6 months house arrest and 18 months probation with urine tests for marijuana. That issue would have to be dealt with later, but for now, Jean would get to go home to her family.
On the morning of November the 25th, the day after I got out of court with sentencing, my probation officer came at 9 a.m. to install an anklet monitor for my house arrest. When he came in the door, he smelled marijuana, and he asked if anyone had been smoking. Just so happened that Miss Elvie Musica was here. Elvie is patient number 3. She gets marijuana legally from the federal government. But she's also a very, very wonderful lady. She's taught me to be strong, to stand up and say what's right. And she's my hero anyway in this movement. She's a really great lady. And he told Miss Elvie that she had to leave, that she couldn't be here. And as we went upstairs for him to install my anklet, I proceeded to tell him that Elvie was my friend and that she was going to stay in my house and she would be here through Thanksgiving. And that on the morning after Thanksgiving she would leave, but that she would not leave beforehand, and that she would use her medicine because the federal government gave it to her. And if he had any problems with that, then he should take it up with the federal government, but not with me. My paper said I could not be around any illegal marijuana. And Elvie's marijuana is not illegal. Elvie's marijuana is legal. So I wondered really how it made him feel, putting an anklet on my ankle for using marijuana to try to save my life, while Elvie is legal to smoke marijuana to save her eyesight.
On Thanksgiving Day, 1998, the Asheville Citizen-Times quoted the federal district attorney as saying that the time had come for compassion. And Jean Marlowe cooked a wonderful dinner for her very thankful friends and family.
Come and get it!
Jean Marlowe's conviction is currently on appeal. NORML's legal staff and her local attorney Brent Connor are already impressed with precedents set in this case.
Well, at the trial, Ms. Marlowe's counsel wanted to present a medical necessity defense. He was not allowed to, primarily because the judge determined in advance that there was no such thing as a necessity defense, a medical necessity defense. I think the case law shows that he's in error. And I think ultimately Jean will have an opportunity to present that defense. Two good things have happened in Miss Marlowe's case. One, she didn't go to jail, and there was every reason to believe that she was going to go to jail. Two, the judge allowed Miss Marlowe to continue government monies. She receives government monies for, I think, disability. And the judge originally in his order had ended that for her by law. And we made a request to the district court to strike that part of his judgment, and the judge again showed compassion for Mrs. Marlowe and allowed that motion.
Ironically, the Polk County Sheriff's Department, after defying a court order for 2 years, finally returned Jean Marlowe's grow lights in October of 1998, just before her sentencing for conspiracy to import marijuana. Jean should not have to have sought out her medicine in Switzerland. She and her caregiver Steve were growing all that she needed at a cost to no one until her growing equipment was confiscated.
I'm having to take a prescription drug called Marinol. This drug costs the state of North Carolina $723 every 20 days for these little pills. They just don't do the job that whole cannabis does. They do a little bit for the muscle spasms. They do help them not be so extensive. But they do a little bit for the nausea. But the thing of it is, whole cannabis, I can take 2 or 3 puffs and get what I need. These things, if I take them, I'm really confused. very forgetful. They're a little more intense than what you need.
At the present time, I have just recently had the third major of our enzymes, and they are gradually increasing, so that it appears as though that she's getting some toxicity from the Marinol. I think this is a problem which can't go on indefinitely, and at the present time, both legally and medically, trying to decide what she can do about this. It seems apparent that she wasn't having this difficulty when she had the availability of cannabis and was smoking it with some regularity.
All Jean Marlowe was trying to do was to secure a source of clean, safe medicine, the only one that her body could use, cannabis in its whole natural form.
As we go on, and places are where it's being used, I think it will be very clearly documented that cannabis has advantages over other medications. I think the commercial situation with drug companies and so on brings up the whole issue of the relationship of pharmaceutical companies and medicine, and the role of cannabis in the relief of symptoms in our culture, and medically and otherwise.
Jean Marlowe has not only taken the federal government to task over unjust laws, but she has elevated the issue to one of basic human rights, the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the constitutional right to equal treatment under the law, the natural right to self-determination, to be free from any establishment that exploits for greed and power.
So I proceeded to tell my probation officer that he had sworn an oath, put his hand on the Bible, and swore an oath to protect my constitutional rights, to uphold the Constitution, to uphold the rights of the citizens, and that he was more bound to protect my rights to equal protection and treatment under the law than he was to mind his boss man who told him to violate my rights in any way. And this is something that I think all probation officers need to understand. Every federal, state employee needs to understand. When you take an oath to do a job and uphold the Constitution, then you are duty-bound and sworn to protect the rights of the citizens first and foremost.
All we really want out of this year is common sense. We want Congressman Taylor, the drug czar, and all the people fighting us to look at my wife's situation and say, if this was my wife, if this was my child, and the doctor told me this is what it took to help her, would I be doing everything that I could to get help for my wife and child? And I think that any congressman, any human being in the country would say, if this is what the doctors said, and this did seem to help, and this did seem to be safer, then they'd be right there doing the same thing that I've done, my wife's done, and friends of hers done in fighting for her right.
This country's founding fathers warned us that tyranny advances in small steps, and that it is our duty as citizens to be vigilant, to stand up for our rights, to demand adherence to the U.S. Constitution and its amendments. Not only is Jean fighting for her life and the lives of others, but she is fighting for the very soul of this nation.